Welcome back to Sailing El Jaleo. Last week we left the coast of Carolina behind us as we headed inland. We made it as far as Adams Creek, so this week we're going to head down the Neuse River, up the Bay River, and we're going to head over to Goose Creek where we anchor for the night in Eastham Creek. The next morning we get up and cross the Pamlico River and we go up the Pungo River and we anchor for a couple of days in the upper Pungo River. I think that's about as far as we'll make it this week, so we might as well go ahead and get right into it. Grab a drink, climb aboard, and let's get going. We did spend one night anchored in Adams Creek. Now, Adams Creek is a very shallow area. Once you get outside of the channel of the Intracoastal Waterway, it's typically 6 feet or less. I have found one pocket, and depending upon which way the wind is blowing, it's 7 to 8 feet deep. So we always stay there, but it's not a very good spot to stay. It's located about 50 yards off of the Intracoastal Waterway, so any large boats that come through that throw off wake, you do get rocked from them. Now, if you come in the evening and leave in the morning, it's perfectly fine. I wouldn't want to spend a full day there, or a weekend would be even worse. So it's a serviceable anchorage, but not one you want to stay in a lot. It was right around this time that I discovered we had a problem. So when we woke up the day before at Sugarloaf Island, we had too much power. You know, that doesn't sound like a problem, but it means something's not running right. One of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning is check the power, and I always know within 1% or 2% what it should be, and it was off by about 1%, so I figured something had failed. The first thing I always check is the fridge freezer. It does consume the most power, and I have had a thermostat fail in one of the 2 compartments before, so now I have independent thermometers in each compartment so I can check them against the digital thermostat, and everything was fine, so I knew that wasn't the problem. The only other thing that made sense was if our anchor light had gone out. So at the top of the mast there are a series of lights, and they're stacked on top of each other. One light is your anchor light, and that is a white light that shines 360 degrees. On top of that are your navigation lights, and that's sectioned into 3 different parts. It's approximately 120 degrees that shines backwards, and that is a white light. I believe it's red is on the port side or on the left side, and that shines forward, or that shines off of that side of the boat, and I believe they're all 120 degrees. And then there's a green light that shines off the starboard side or the right hand side. So when you're sailing at night, you do need to have that navigation light on. That way people can tell which direction you're traveling. Now that doesn't do me any good because I'm colorblind. I'm red-green colorblind, but so we've actually had a problem with that assembly. About 2 weeks into this season, our anchor light went out, and I don't have a means to get it fixed right now. I do have a mast ladder, but I don't have a harness that fits. The last time I went rock climbing was 20 years ago when I was over 100 pounds lighter. So it's just not safe for me to go up the mast until I can get a proper harness. I figured it's not worth risking my life to replace a bulb. So for this season, and I know some people will have a problem with this, I've been using my navigation lights as an anchor light. Now, in my defense, no one really looks at those things anyways. They see a light, they don't, and I don't anchor anywhere near a navigation channel, so I wouldn't be confused with a boat that's moving because I'm outside of the navigation channels. So I figured it was relatively safe to use my nav lights for an anchor light, and I honestly didn't think anyone would notice, and no one said anything, so I don't think anyone has noticed. But that morning in Sugarloaf Island, I discovered that our navigation lights that I'd been using for anchor lights had gone out. So when we got to Adams Creek, I had to come up with some way to light the boat so people could at least see us at night when we're anchored. Now, if I was in Florida, I would have found a way to go up the mast to fix it, because I just wouldn't, I couldn't go that long with not having an official anchor light. But I have a huge LED floodlight, and I figured if I put that and illuminated the entire front of the boat at night, so at least people could see us. No, it's not an official anchor light, but at least we're visible. It's going to get the job done, and for 2 weeks it could work until we can get back to Delaware City. And I'm actually going to replace the entire assembly at the top of the mast. It's old school, it's 40 years old. It's incandescent bulbs, so I'm going to replace it with an LED fixture. They're about $400, but they consume a heck of a lot less power, so it'll be a good upgrade. When you live on a boat that does not have an enclosed cockpit, you always have to make weather decisions. And this day was no different. Now, I had checked all of the little towns up the Neuse River and to the Bay River. There's Oriental, North Carolina, there's Hoboken. There's different places you can check to get a feel for what the weather's going to be as you go along your path or the route that you're going to be traveling. So I checked all of these little towns, and there was little to no rain on the forecast. I figured if we left Adams Creek, we'd be going by Oriental, and we might get about 20 minutes of rain. So I checked the radar that morning, and that information backed up what I was seeing. But it was supposed to be a very calm day from a wind perspective, and the Neuse River runs right down into Pamlico Sound, which is, there's just a small barrier island that's protecting Pamlico Sound from the ocean. So Pamlico Sound is, in effect, the ocean, and it can get very, very rough out there. So we prefer to go on a calm day, preferably when the wind is in a direction that we can use, just not right on the nose. So we had a decision. Do we put up with 20 minutes of rain in order to go on a day where the wind we can use, which will actually benefit us? Or do we wait till the next day when it's guaranteed to be dry and the wind will be on our nose at 11 knots? Well, it was kind of a no-brainer. I figured 20 minutes of rain, we can all get through that. Linus and Neptune always stay up on deck with me when it rains. They refuse to go inside, but Hanwi, the girl, is the smart one. She, as soon as it starts raining, she comes over, I pop her downstairs, and life is good. She stays dry. Now, the other two, they could probably use a rinse anyway, so it works out. But our 20 minutes of rain turned into about 4 hours of rain. So we got a little more than we bargained for. But when you're halfway down the Neuse River, it really doesn't make sense to turn around. And it was a relatively warm day out, so it was fine. No one was shivering. We were all doing okay. And by the time we got to our anchorage that night in Eastham Creek, we had all dried off. So it was kind of no harm, no foul. But I do find it funny. Every day, it's almost like when we went across Charleston Harbor. It's going to be calm, but we might see 10 minutes of rain. It ends up being a deluge for an hour. So but I can guarantee if we had decided to stay in Adams Creek and wait for the next day, I can guarantee we wouldn't have gotten any rain. So it's just the way things work out. It always works out against you, but it is what it is. A little rain never killed anyone. After spending one night in Eastham Creek, we got up early the next morning and got back on the road. We were anticipating a short journey just across the Pamlico River, and we were only going to go about halfway up the Pungo River back to Pungo Creek, which is our old stomping ground. That's where Blackbeard's Cove Marina and Pub is located, and that is where we spent our entire first winter after everything went pear-shaped on our maiden journey. So I was kind of curious to get back in the area and check out the marina and see what it looked like. Now, I did make a video on the marina 3 or 4 years ago, and there have been some recent comments on it saying the marina has shut down, which is a shame. It's such a beautiful area, and it was a really nice marina. I hope the new owners get it up and running and open to the public again. As we were steaming up the Pungo River, I decided to call an audible and actually not go to Pungo Creek. It's about 4 miles to get into Pungo Creek from the Intracoastal Waterway, and the upper Pungo River anchorage is only about 10 miles further. We were going to go there the next day anyway, so once you factor in motoring in 4 miles to Pungo Creek and then back out the next day, that's 8 miles when it's only 10 to the next anchorage. So I figured why not just do it that day and just save us an entire day of travel. So that's what we did. And that's all we have time for this week. I would like to give a massive shout out to my Patreon crew. Without your guys' support, I wouldn't make these videos. And my Patreon crew is Joan and Juddy Judnick, Val and Chris Alcorn, Denise and Eli Sackett, Sherry Erickson, Deb Shaw, Matthew Spotton, Peter Allen, and Natalie Linehan. Thank you guys so very much. Your support really means the world to me. I do have one legacy patron member, and her name is Joan Linbo. Unfortunately, she has passed on, but she lives on in our hearts forever. We really miss you, Joan. If you are interested in joining our Patreon crew, there is a link in the description down below, and that'll take you to our Patreon page where you can sign up. And there are hundreds, literally hundreds of extra videos and photos of our travels, and I try and keep everything there up to date and post at least once or twice a week, so it gives you a little peek behind the curtain. If you do like our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. That'll help us out more than you'll ever know, and that actually doesn't cost you anything, so hit that like button. Alrighty, I hope you all are well, and we'll see you next week.